We'll continue on I'm going to guess from the name of the title that it will be a pretty broad view on what's up with Azure. And we'll have a repeat presenter present. Magnus Mårtensson, welcome.
Thank you very much. And I cannot tell you how nice it is to be on a stage again. For someone like me to be up here, it's brilliant. And the reason I have my phone, does anybody terribly object to me to doing a crowd selfie? No. Everybody okay? All right, let's do it. That's brilliant, thank you. One for the memories, to be back on a stage, 2019, traveling all over the world, and then 2020 was a flat line for so many of us. But now it's to be back is bloody brilliant, actually. And I'm thankful to be here. Thankful specifically also to these people. Very thankful to them as well for doing this. How to begin? I think we begin with a story. To level set, to figure out where we are and see where the challenges might be. So this is the story about a company called Acme. It's a very successful manufacturing company. In fact, they're Finnish, as you can clearly tell from the name there. So they're actually from here in Helsinki. You should know them because, as it turns out, they manufacture caps for Mintu bottles and also all of the merchandise. So you can imagine how successful this company is. Like, obviously, they need to go to the cloud, right? So that's what they're doing. Getting ready to go to the cloud and getting out there with their products, with their all of their software and stuff. Yeah. So the challenges on the road to the cloud quickly become apparent to them. That there are different challenges and difficult things that they end up with. So they start having these problems, becoming really frustrated to find the financial control. You know, how much does it cost, right? Before they knew, on-premise with their IT, that was a budget post every year, right? So X millions for IT. And now in the cloud, the IT manager comes and asks the engineers, you know, what's it going to cost in the cloud? And they go, it depends, and we'll see. It's not the same model anymore. And also compliance, right? They start deploying to the cloud and they realize that compliance is important, but they can't really get a handle on it. It used to be something that they could control, and now in the cloud they feel they don't have the foothold really. Also security, they're struggling with that. They can't find out how to really get things locked down and the right people authenticated, and what about those consultants and how do we get them in, and you know, how should we handle this? So it's a journey, they're on the journey, they're going there, and they feel that there are new holes appearing and they're deep, and they keep getting deeper. When you're in a hole, stop digging. But it seems like they're never going to get out of this, and clearly something is not working for them. Now, I work as a consultant, and I'm sure that many of you as well in here do. I think you recognize this. I don't know if I've met even one company that really does all the things in the cloud really well. Interestingly, everybody's doing it, but no one is really perfect. And so we need to figure out how to proceed. We need to identify the real problem areas and strategically start thinking about what should we be doing now. I'm Magnus, again, hello. I work for a company called Devo Team, and full disclosure, right? The things that I talk about today are things that I'm selling, you know, every day of the week, right? So I'm talking about the work that I'm passionate about, the experiences I have had here. So this is by no means a sales pitch, right? So everything that I say about potentially, maybe sometimes I might name drop a product or something that we do, you could buy the same thing from any other vendor as well. So I think it's fair to do that. I'm not here to sell you anything at all. I do have benefit of a bit of perspective with the cloud. As it turns out, I was the first person to become an Azure MVP in the Nordic countries. So I've now 11 years running for Azure MVP. So with that perspective in mind, the cloud is quite different and interesting now compared to what it was when it started out. Started out with a handful of services, right? And now it's so many that no one can count them. And the same with the Azure data centers, in fact. They started out to be countable. You know, we counted them. Oh, there's 12 of them now. There's 46 of them now. But now nobody knows how many there are and in which countries anymore. It's impossible to keep track. So it's quite a different beast. And with this beast, I see that people are struggling. So in this talk, I promised you gold, right? It's in the title even. So it's fair to ask the question from the benches now, where is the moolah? You know, where are we going? I don't know how long this talk is. This is the first time I'm giving it. So it might be that we run out of time before I run out of slides, and that's fair. But what I will do is I will give away the end in the beginning, and then we'll sort of work backwards from there. So at least you know you have the takeaways, and then we can just talk for the remainder of the time that we have together. So the biggest areas of problem, you know, if we zoom out, that I see everyone is struggling with. These are the big three, and there's one more, operations. These are maybe the big four then, that everyone have trouble with. And they need to balance all of these things, right? So can you have everything being very secure and cheap at the same time? Maybe that's not possible, right? Well, it's one of those, you know, you have three options, you can only have two of them at the same time. It's kind of like that with this. So I found this lovely report from a company called Flexera that I was trying to find something to back my story, and I actually came across this report just as it happened. And this one is, I have a few of these graphs along to sort of carry the message in this presentation. If you look at this is where are we spending time? What are our initiatives? Across all kinds of organizations going to the cloud, where are we spending our time? What is it that we need to focus on or will be focusing on according to our plan? Migrating more stuff to the cloud and moving from on-premises software maybe into a SaaS solution, those are brilliant. That's, you know, the first one, migrating more workloads to the cloud, that's kind of my bread and butter, so yay. And Rick's as well, you know, according to his presentation, right? This is what makes our money, so that's brilliant. But if you can get away with it, moving to a SaaS solution is probably your strategically, you know, your smartest thing you could ever do. For example, a canonical simple example is rarely would you migrate your Exchange server VMs to the cloud and run Exchange in the cloud, right? That would probably not be the case. You might consider moving to Office 365 instead, right? So that's just one example. Where you can skip ahead to a SaaS solution instead of using the cloud, right? Instead of running your own thing in the cloud. But as you can see here, there is governance, and cost is actually twice, right? the top one and then the second to last one. And there were a couple of more going down this list, but I decided to cut it there. Security is implied, right? Isn't that always the case, right? So technical people will be doing technical things, and so of course they will be secure. It's implied. We don't even have to have that in the strategy, do we? Or don't we? Wait. So back to those goals again, the goal that I promised you. So when you're digging for gold, this is a company going for the clouds, and they're digging for gold, and how will we find that gold? Well, the best investment you can do is invest a lot in using cloud-native management services. There has been a couple of companies that build their own secret sauce, and we have our own management tools that we use, and they're so brilliant. And please be our customer, and now you're locked into having us as your supplier forever. Brilliant. No. So use cloud-native tools and use suppliers that give you cloud-native tools. So potentially you could exchange them, but they would know that. So now that supplier needs to actually behave all the time like someone you want to keep, rather than someone who locked you in and threw away the key. So I think that is the way to posture as a supplier. And I wanted to give you this from multiple angles. So one angle is the company that is going to consume Azure and run some services. Another one is individually. As an engineer, as a person, you would be surprised if I told you how often people come to me for career advice, and I'm like, what the, really, me? No. Don't ask me for career advice, but people tend to do that, weirdly. And so, yeah, these areas, there's lots to learn in these areas, and we are, as an industry, are lacking, sorely lacking, enough skilled and experienced, well, experience comes with time, but enough skilled individuals to tackle these challenges. So as an individual, if you want to get ahead, if you want to have a, pick a career path and follow that. I'll talk a little bit more in detail about these things as we go along. I kind of put all suppliers in a bucket, and I call them consultants. Whether you deliver software services or you deliver heads to work in the projects, all people that are working for someone who will be using the cloud as a supplier. Technically, of course, what we need to do, and that includes myself, is to build reusable components and reusable solutions that we can sell again and again to multiple customers. And while that sounds obvious, it really isn't for a lot of, because I've worked myself in a lot of projects where I go in and build a solution for a customer, and I go to the next customer and I build the same solution again, and then I go to the next customer and I build the same solution again, right? And it doesn't scale, and besides it's boring, because I've already built it multiple times. And the first time, if you only build a general solution for one customer, you're not going to make money. But if you build a general solution for multiple customers, you're going to begin to make money at some point. And this is exactly my journey as well. For years, we were building the same solution over and over again, but then we started to try to abstract out. And that's just good engineering, really. As an engineer and as an architect, that's how I think to begin with. I wanted to do that, but it wasn't in the plan until we started thinking, we can't keep doing this. We can't keep throwing a full team of developers, expensive, for years into a project and asking our customer to pay for that. There are more rational ways of doing it. And as you can see, I had a little fun with these pictures, by the way. These old gold mining pictures. And so I had, for this last one, I had a couple of options. Tell me which one is better. This one, I thought this second one is kind of a little bit on the nose with the beer and the drinking. So I don't know, I liked it, but not that much. I really like this one, though. This is a supplier, right? So it's Mrs. G.I. Lowe's Laundry, mending free of charge. It's kind of a little bit how it feels to supply a customer with things they need, right? So those are the takeaways. So thank you, bye-bye, now we're done. But to elaborate, right? Why is it so hard? Let's turn first to Microsoft. They're doing this, right? Microsoft is doing this a lot. So let's check. How many have seen this one, this picture? Many? Yeah, most? Yeah, exactly. This is like the canonical picture. You just follow 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 10, and you're done. Perfect, wonderful. Except we know this is the cloud adoption framework, for those of you who don't know, from Microsoft, where they kind of gathered up lots of information about the cloud. And we know that reality more often it looks more like this, right? This is not a finish box 1 first, move to box 2 kind of a thing. It's all over the place. We know this. And when you have a picture like this, special interests, if you will start looking at that and, wait a minute, people and process is just like, it's down there in the corner. That's the most important bit. So if you break open the cloud adoption framework, you'll find that there are a couple of versions of this picture. I hardly knew this myself, but I've been preaching this thing for a long time, that you have to start with how you organize and figure out which things are we strategically going to do as a company and which parts might we outsource to someone else, you know, if it's not our business. Interestingly, there's a little loop there going to 7. Starts with evaluate your need and establish the team, establish a cadence, and then 4, 5, 6, and 7, I'll tell you what they are. 4 is establish a motivation-driven strategy. Who ever heard of such a thing? Have you worked with any customer that did that? That would be lovely if everybody did. And then here's the kicker, number 5, establish business outcomes. Wow, that's innovative. I can't tell you how many customers I have worked with where the customer employees, like they know they're going to cloud, right? So step number 6 is decide whether to proceed or cancel based on business justification. And we just saw that live in action, in fact, on the previous presentation, which is coincidentally kind of interesting. And then 7 is support adoption through regular cadence. But again, establish business outcomes. So the employees in the company that work for a company going to the cloud, they know they're going to the cloud, they don't know why. They don't know the actual drivers. Is it to save money is the most important thing? Is it to scale to many new customers and make more money is the most important thing? Is it because we had a security breach and security is our top concern? Honestly, mostly, a lot of the time, even the employees of the company are unclear of the actual business goals that we are going towards, which is very interesting. Big warning sign if you're a supplier to a customer and they can't articulate why they're doing it. Because then down the line, you will come in at a point when it's time to begin to deliver some technical things. And you'll begin to deliver technical things. And here are some beautifully, well-architected pieces of software, and they're running. Look how great, you have input there, output there, everything is cool. Yes. How do we know we built the right thing? The thing they actually needed? If you as a supplier, if you're a consultant and are going to supply to someone, please ask them why they're doing it, right? And demand that they give you that answer, because otherwise down the line, you will have spent millions of their money, deliver brilliant things, and you're not sure if that was what they needed. And neither are they. And then, just as a side note, somebody else will look at this and say, well, security demands more than that, just this little tiny thing. So there's another picture in the Cloud Adoption Framework where security actually gets its own bubble. And I want to show you that. Let's see where the browser ends up, on which screen, on that screen. I want to show you just briefly from Cloud Adoption Framework. I have to do this behind my back. I apologize. Whoops. What happened there? I don't think this is going to work, so I'm going to exit presentation mode because that always screws with you. So we just get one screen. And it's still on the wrong screen. Okay, so that's not really working for me. Okay, good. Let's try. Yes, that works. So if you look at the Cloud Adoption Framework, you'll see that all the things here have their own head category. These are the things from the picture, right? And security is included there. They have their own thing. And in the whole left side menu, apologize for talking away from you. I split screen. You'll see that all of these top-level things, are you ready? It's time to adopt, and strategic and stuff, they're in the left side menu, including, in fact, organize. Organize is there in the main menu, but it's not really in the picture, except the other custom picture that I showed you. So what am I getting at with that long explanation? I'll tell you, if I can go back to my presentation. Like this. Yes, I could. So what I'm getting at is that it's a lot. So if you pop up the Organize section of Cloud Adoption Framework, you'll get a list like that. And here's a little side note for you. If someone ever shows this many things on a slide, it's not for you to remember. It's for you to get a sense of, oh, wow, that's a lot. So did you get that sense now? Yes, it's a lot, right? It really is. A lot of things that you need to be on top of and keep track of and do well. And I've never met anyone who does all that well at the same time. Strategically, you might want to consider which parts could someone else be doing for us, like operations or compliance. How do we need to be organized to be enabled to receive that from someone else? So commonly, the cloud is mistaken for being primarily a technical challenge, and that's where many of us come in. We come in when it's time to do something technical. The business people have already decided we're going to the cloud. Do we know why? Kind of, because everybody else is doing it, and so that's why we're going to do it too. But in fact, the cloud is more a strategic business challenge, and it is a human capital challenge. So I like this part of the picture the very best. Few people start there. And when you have the business strategy, the cloud business strategy conversation, the most important person in the room is the HR director. And a lot of people forget that. We're going to have a conversation with the IT directors and the business directors and these people, and we're going to decide the future of the company. Yeah, but did you invite the HR director? It's the person there who knows which skills you have and who needs to understand which skills you need to get. Is that person in the room to begin with? Wow. Just as an example, I just wanted to put that out there as an example, this one, right? Are we going to optimize infrastructure spend, as in we run some VM workloads and things maybe in the cloud? Are we going to optimize that spend by acquiring a bunch of reserved instances? Or are we going to instead focus on modernizing and innovating our application suite to move some of those workloads off VMs into native or PaaS services in the platform? Those two strategies are entirely different. Those two demand entirely different people with entirely different skills, right? That just doesn't randomly happen. You have to think about that, and quite hard as well. So, you run the risk otherwise of using the new cloud in the old way, right? So you run the cloud, you're in the cloud, yes, but you could have been anywhere else because you're not doing anything new. You're not taking advantage of the best parts of the cloud at all, really. So, and also the current experts, they kind of need to feel like they are included. So this one, it's a lot of information, so let's remove the bottom ones. They're not super interesting here. Managing software licenses. No. But the ones that remain, the top challenges in the cloud are, according to this survey, security, spend, governance, compliance. They're all there. And the last one, let's put that in the little box, lack of resources and expertise. So, could it be argued that if we had enough resources, we never will, if we had enough expertise, we probably also never will, we might be able to tackle these other challenges? Yeah, maybe? So it's really about understanding that dynamic. So I'm going to run through kind of, hopefully quite quick, to focus in on each one of these things in turn. Let's start with FinOps. Estimated wasted spend, self-estimated wasted spend of Azure in this survey, across many companies, about a third, right? So if you have a 1 million euro commit, you buy an enterprise agreement for €1 million, might be a lot of money depending on the size of your company, right? 300,000 or more is just wasted, just thrown out. Wow. Interesting. And This is just a random picture from that I took off the internet because I realized it was difficult to take the customer ones because they would be real. And so this is Contoso. This is what I found on the internet. It's quite old, actually, I think. But what I want to highlight is actually something small in this picture, is the budgets and the cost alerts. So I see a lot of companies not even have considered using budgets in Azure. It's not a requirement, but it's a really, really handy tool, really handy. And why is it so handy? Well, if you start allocating budgets to your spend in the cloud, if you manage to get to that point, you will put either a team manager or a whole team responsible for the spend in a way that they begin to feel accountable for what they do. So many times I have seen people deploy a test VM, something, and leave it running and forget about it over the weekend or forget about it for months. I literally came to a customer and I was like, okay, started looking at what they had in Azure. Oh, there's a little VM scale set right there, 5 VMs, and there's another one of 5 VMs running. What's running on these scale sets? 10 VMs running. The lead architect looks at that and goes, oh, we still have those. I don't think we're using those. So 10 VMs running for 3 months just because nobody realized they were running and nobody turned them off. And yeah, well, so clearly no one was accountable for that, right? So fixating a bit on budgeting and twiddling with that, including your professional engineers, your tech people to be, that's us, right? Most of us in this room. To allowing us to be accountable is not something negative. It's actually something that makes us feel proud and makes us empowered and strong. I can now do this because now I know, right? Seeing things like this is only 500,000 Danish, so about 50, 60,000 euros, right? So it's not super much, but these are cost recommendations, things that you could be fixing, right? Buy virtual machine reserved instances to save money. Yeah, technically, that's really easy. You know this, technically very easy. I can go click, reserved instance, yep, off we go. And then you go to your manager and say, listen, manager, these VMs, and we have this recommendation, and a lot of money could be saved. Can we buy the reserved instances for that? And they go, we need to think about whether or not we're going to run these workloads for a long time. These are reserved instances, right? Like, so it's 12 months or 36, right? So are we going to run them for a long time, or are we actually migrating sometime soon? Sometime soon, you know where this is headed, right? To PaaS services instead. Yeah. And then months and months later, right? Sure. We know there are Azure cost management optimizations that we need to attend to, right? We know that. But 7 months later, when your enterprise agreement runs out and you still haven't done anything about it, it's painful. So this is a story. I'm going to make a long story kind of short in the interest of time. They had a 12-month, they had an enterprise agreement for 12 months. They had some performance issues. They wanted to turn off auto-scaling for a while to find out what the problem was for just a short time, and I advised against it because do you actually realize how much that's going to cost you? Well, yeah, this was about 4 months in, so 3 months additionally in, 7 months out of the 12, they had spent their entire budgeted enterprise agreement, and yeah, they had to now figure out how to get extra budget for additional 5 months, right? This is real. This keeps happening because people don't measure and don't realize. So consultants, create financial analysis services, offer Cloud FinOps training to your customer. Like, the best customer is a knowledgeable one, right? Stealing, candy from children is kind of nice, it's sweet, that lovely lollipop, like children crying. Train your customers, yes, a lot, because then you can start to have adult conversations with them and not adolescent ones. and prepare to help them strategically. So demand that they know what their strategy is, because you'd be surprised how many actually are a little bit unclear, apart from the fact that they're going to the cloud because they're going to the cloud. Right. As an engineer, here's a learning path. Microsoft loves when I do that. Refer to their like docs and learn and things, right? That's, you know, a thumbs up from Microsoft on doing that. So learn about this. I mean, if you have a big company, if you have a big spend in Azure and no one has gone through this learning path in your company, you're just randomly using Azure. You don't know exactly how much it's going to cost or what you could do about it with the budgets and stuff. We're not using budgets because we don't know how to use them. Is that an excuse at all? And then as a customer of Azure, using Azure, you know, figure out do a financial analysis for the spend and have that uncomfortable strategic talk where you talk about, should we go left or right, IaaS or PaaS, or, you know, that's the example here, but there are many other things that you need to choose from. Do not forget to include HR in this conversation. Many people do. And then, for heaven's sake, please implement those cost advisories. You know, there's no excuse for, you know, 6 months later you still haven't touched them. All right, let's go to compliance. The common status of non-compliance, here is compliance at 12%, right? I think you have seen something like this. You may have, yeah? This is a common case. This is actually just the random things that you happen. This might be just because you deployed something that was default, right? The 12%. You deployed something and just happened to have a setting that was set to something that actually was compliant. So the 12% kind of signals that, you know, you threw a bunch of things at the wall and something stick, right? But really, to miss compliance this much is common. And then what to do about it? It's hard, and why is it hard? Because you can invest a lot in compliance, and then you'll notice that compliance tends to move. This is the AZ Advertiser. Very, very nice service. It's on the internet, azadvertiser.net. Anyone can browse to it. It shows you which changes are made to compliance in Azure, right? And so to focus in a little bit on the bottom picture, you can't read it, so I'll have to read it to you. This was a picture I took at the beginning of this year, so it's from the end of January, beginning of February. January 28th, there were 83 total changes, updates to policy. 83. About a week later, almost a week into February, there were 14 new changes, 10 updates, and 4 new policies that were created. And a week after that, there were 8 new updates and 12 new policies. So in less than a month, there were 117 changes to compliance in Azure, right? So even if you invest into figuring out compliance, it's going to move for you, right? So we put a lot of effort into fixing compliance. It's almost perfect now. And then, but the cloud changes and now you're out of compliance again, right? So that investment, you know, what are we doing? Or we're trying to catch clouds with a net, right? They keep slipping through. Here's another version of the same. We know compliance is a must-have, and we're trying to do it, but getting governance in place is overpowering. So a customer of mine had a CSP relationship, and so they supplied a bunch of things, and they wanted to have them set up compliance, assign policies in the right place in the right way. And so they opened up a ticket to get a change made for just one policy to fix that. And after a long time, that one policy was assigned in the right way. And then they realized that we don't have the organizational structure to govern this and manage change in policy over time. So actually just doing it the right way is difficult to begin with. So, consultants, create compliancy analysis services and operate your customers' compliance for them. But the last one is kind of interesting. Create compliant deployment components. So we have a library of those, things that we have built to be reusable. If your customer has multiple teams, and multiple teams are deploying multiple instances of resources, they all need to configure those to be compliant individually, right? So each team has to do it in turn, right? And then they need to maintain it over time as well. So what you should be doing is taking a big step, whoa, let's not fall off the stage, taking a big step back and abstracting out. This is just good architecture now, right? As responsible engineers and architects, create a deployable component of a SQL server, which is compliant, and then have multiple teams use the same deployable component, yeah? And when compliance shifts, which it always does, clouds tend to change shape, that component will be no longer compliant. You fix it in one place and you ship a new version of that, and all your teams can upgrade to the new compliant version without having every individual team realize they're out of compliance, trying to figure out what to do about it, and changing their deployment individually to then again be compliant. You realize, everybody here quickly realized the waste of that, yeah? So, if you're a customer on the other side of the bench, you're not a supplier right now, you're the customer, you're going to spend on Azure, centralize your compliance governance, because there needs to be a plan. So many times I've seen, the management trees in Azure you can have with different areas, and then you can have subscriptions in that little tree. So many times I've seen that they have dozens or more of subscriptions hanging out in the root of the tree, and they don't actually really have a tree of compliance. The main value of the management structure in Azure is for policy assignment. That's the main value of it. I've even asked Microsoft about that, and they was like, yeah, you're right, that's exactly why we did that. So that large enterprises and large organizations can have a section of the tree with some subscriptions that are for development and another section that are for production, right? And they can assign policy differently across those, right? That's why we do it, and I see so many are not doing that, right? I see so many are, well, we created this large enterprise subscription, and now we have dev and test and prod and pre-prod and every environment in the same subscription. Technically, you can have it. Is it a good idea? No, not really, because now everything has the same policy or not, and it's all a big jumbled up mess. So, vary compliance by environment. That's what I just said. And then invest in reusable components, right? Because that's also empowering for your, because that's also empowering for your less tech-savvy teams. As in, when I say tech-savvy, I mean like if you have someone whose job, it's not their job to be a developer or an IT engineer and know everything about the cloud. Maybe their expertise is in technology something different. They're a data scientist or somebody, right? The data scientists, they're tech savvy as heck with that, but not cloud. So they want to deploy things to the cloud. They want to have, your data factories or your machine learning things, and that's their tools that they want to use. They don't actually care how they run in the cloud. They shouldn't be bothered with compliancy and things like that, because it's not really their business to know that. They want to have something deployable easy, and when they use those things, they are compliant, they are secure, they are great. All right, career path for engineers. This is harder, right? Because how do you fix compliance? Well, you fix compliance by being good at Azure. So it's not like this one requires some tenacity, and it requires that you do this a lot for a long time. Let's see if we can run through security here as well. Right. Quick comment offhand, it's unrelated to the rest, about Azure Security. Wait, no. About Microsoft Defender. Flavor of the month. It amuses me how often the answer to security threat in Defender is to buy another Azure service. And a lot of customers observe this, right? A lot of companies that are consuming Azure, they observe that when they look at Defender, and they go like, yeah, great. So just buy everything that Microsoft have, and then you're secure. That's basically the message. You need to be careful there. But that was unrelated. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Security scores. Here's a lovely picture. I like this picture. I call it half secure. Right? How secure are you? About half. Right? Is that? But for those of us who work with the secure scores, we know that there can be like one thing you fix that is like 25%. So it might quickly get up. But what I often see is things like this. There are 611 active alerts. That's overpowering, and I see a lot of organizations are not set up. They have they're coming to the cloud, so they have, of course, their own security department for their on-premise stuff, secure network and physical security and all these things, but the same people are not experienced with using cloud things and cloud services and things to ensure security in the cloud. So they don't really have they have a security department, but they don't have a security department. And the problem with that is that the managers, the business people think they do, but they don't. So it's actually nobody's real job to fix that. And so Microsoft Defender is blinking all of these red lights. Can we do this one together, by the way? Can I get some help? Right, let's do this one together. Microsoft Defender is blinking all of these red lights. Everybody together. But, oh, thank you. That's a nice but. But we cannot even begin to prioritize how to fix it because we don't have the right people with the right experiences in the right seats, and it's nobody's job to fix it. I've literally asked multiple customers this question: who is fixing the secure score? Where is the backlog for fixing the things that show up as a negative secure score? Nobody's job. Wow. Interesting. So again, that's when the business looks at security as something that will just automatically happen because engineers are doing technical things. And it's not the case. It's not true. So if I look for security things as a learner, there are so many. Here are a few. You can learn all about security from Microsoft, about how to use their different things. So there's tons. Create security analysis services as a supplier, as a consultant, right? So we can help you. We can analyze your security posture, and we can tell you where you are. This is a great thing to do as a consultant, and operate their security because they're not doing it. So you can offer them to do that, and then hire all the security specialists that you can find. And when you realize you can't find any, you begin to train your own because there is a shortage, a massive shortage in the industry in this area. So, for customers of Azure, the company that uses Azure, please set up that SecOps, cloud SecOps department thing. A lot of people don't have one. They're spending millions in Azure, but they don't have a security office for the cloud, interestingly. So hire all the specialists and consultants that you need, because it's like, yeah, we will have a security department for the cloud operations sometime soon. Okay, where's the plan to get that? Oh, yeah, didn't you hear what I just said? We will have it soon. But there isn't an actual plan to get there, interestingly. And make security strategic, for Christ's sake, right? Open up the cloud business strategy plan document thing and find the word security. If it's not in there, that's because the business thinks it's automatically going to happen, and they don't understand that it won't. So, ensure that it is somebody's job to fix the secure score. Whew, all this ranting. All right, final leg, Azure Monitor Advisors. I love this. So you can get to an Azure Advisor overview that looks like that. All the subscriptions are selected and there are no recommendations. It can be done, right? There are no additional things you need to do. But more often it looks like this, that there's, you can save 2.5 million Danish. So it's possible to save a lot of money, but no one is doing anything about it. And what's worse about Azure Advisor is that it has history. It knows what you haven't done. Oops. This is sort of a sackable offense, if you ask me, honestly, right? Let's look at that. For months, and this is just a quarter of a year, but for months, nothing has changed. And they're not all bad. People are honestly doing good things as well. Reliability, operational excellence, performance, it's, top notch according to Advisor. But security is down. It's not terrible, but it's not great. And there's a waste. This is same customer actually, so it's about $500,000 in waste that could be optimized, right? But for months, no one has done anything about it. The reason I see a lot of the times is that there's too much information. It is information overflow. There are so many blinking red lights that you don't see them anymore, right? That is a huge problem. Now, we're taking questions at the end, so I will wave a little bit more, and then we'll go back to questions. So, Azure deployment environments, just as a note, Microsoft are now publicly talking about it, the thing called Fidalgo. Lovely, take a look at that. How much time have you spent enabling customer teams to do some self-service to get a new subscription or get a new deployment environment or get access to something, building that self-service? Well, it turns out everybody has that problem, and everybody's trying to build a solution for it. And so finally, wonderfully, Microsoft is also doing the same with Fidalgo Azure deployment environments. That's a brilliant thing to take a look at, by the way. And I do need to stress one thing as well, and I also love to jab a little bit at Terraform. I love Terraform. We use a lot of Terraform in my company. A Devo team is like 8,000 people, and so we have a lot of people working there, and so many of them use Terraform, and it's fine. It's just that, right? There are also the native ones, AWS Cloud Formation templates and Azure Resource Manager templates. As it turns out, according to this survey, and this is what I'm seeing as well, they have uptake, they have increased. More people are starting to use that more, the native versions. And actually, there's a slight decrease in Puppet and Chef and Terraform and these things. There are like across that you could use anywhere. Now, I know that someone here who loves Terraform is personally offended right now. That's okay. I don't mean to offend. Terraform is brilliant. I've said it several times. It's just that the providers of your clouds, they want you to use their stuff, of course. They want to lock you into using their things. So they want you to use ARM or Bicep, or they want you to use AWS Cloud Formation things, because then it's less likely that you want to move somewhere else. All right, so how to avoid security and compliance problems is to never be non-compliant to begin with. So you start with a library of secured and compliant components, and then that is something that you might consider, and this is kind of what I sell, so this is very self-serving, so I kind of apologize for that. But again, you could buy that from other companies than ours. So it's a good business opportunity because of that. About half of companies are using managed service providers. About 31 are using it some, and 26% are using it a lot. But there's another 12% planning to use it, according to this. So managed services is very much on a rise now, where people are, I think it's a sign of industry maturity, that we don't want to build the same solution again and then move to the next customer and build it again. We want to be smarter. So if you think it's expensive to hire an expert, wait until you hire an amateur. But that's it, actually. We're down to, like, we can stop now. You never arrived at the cloud because it always moves. You must learn to live in the cloud like a pilot, and clever businesses get a guide. And that's it. Thank you. I hope that this was somewhat informative, and if anyone has any questions, it's kind of a general talk, but maybe you have a specific question. Yeah? I think I'm off the hook. You have one.
Like the whole scoring area, secure score, advisory. As you mentioned, it's a lot of information.
Yes.
Customers get overloaded. Do you have recommendation on, is there like a sweet spot to start with the most high ones and then create a backlog of the other ones?
Yeah.
What's the advice on that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So the information overload, the question is, the information overload that we see in these secure scores and these advisories and dashboards, like I said, there are so many blinking red lights that you can't see anything anymore. How do you begin to untangle that at all? You have to, you know that you have to, but you're kind of deferring it because maybe someone else will take an initiative, I don't know. So how do you do it? You analyze first. You need to, there are great analysis tools and there are great companies that do nothing but analyze things for you. So if you feel like you should get an expert's opinion, you're probably right. That's my recommendation. Get a report. You still haven't bought anything except the report. So now you might know where to begin to look. And then you'll find, you know, the low-hanging fruit, like, oh, that thing is easy to do, right? Oh, we didn't have a firewall installed on all our VMs. That's crazy. Oh, easy to do. Click, click. You know, now that's done. And then there will be the more long-running ones that require a lot of more attention, and some of them also require a strategic conversation. So reshaping your initial report into a backlog and making a prioritization, I think, is very important because you will find some strategic conversations in that you didn't know were there. It looked like technology because it was a dashboard with blinking red lights, but once you weather it down, once you analyze it, you realize that there were hidden strategic conversations for the business that they didn't know they had to have. And so now you can have those conversations and figure out, okay, what is our actual plan for having that SecOps in place? We can't find the people, we can't hire them, right? I'm just using that as an example. They're not in the market, so how do we approach it? Well, now we have to get a service for now, maybe, require the services of some security expert consultants. Might be expensive, but not having them probably, in the end, eventually, inevitably going to be more expensive. So, and then make a plan, right? So you need to analyze and break it apart and find your strategic questions that are hidden there. Kind of a long-winded answer. Does that make sense? Wonderful. Yes?
You talk about acquiring the security consultants from elsewhere.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the recommendations that are on the Azure, on the security side, are common sense. So how do you approach on actually getting the people in the company to get that common sense so you don't actually need the consultant? Because it will happen in time that it will become common sense that you do not open the SSH port on a public server.
Yeah. So to repeat the question again, that's a brilliant question. How do you, like a lot of the security recommendations and things that you see in these long lists of things, they're common sense. And if you put that in front of an engineer, they're immediately going to go, yeah, that makes sense. Of course, yes, we're going to fix that, no problem. But it's not really someone's job to do it, right? So it's never getting done because it's not getting done. And remarkably, it is astonishing how uncommon common sense is. Because we tend to focus on the thing that drives us forward. Like if you have some business manager somewhere requiring new features to the application or what have you, those are things that they're shouting at you to fix. And so you will fix those. And you know you have to fix that security thing as well, right? You know you have to do it. But it is not prioritized right now. which means never. And so finding the right people to help you if you don't have them is something you must do, and you must make security strategic, right? So it is strategic. It has people assigned to it whose job it is to fix it, because it doesn't automatically get fixed when you have other deadlines, other things pressuring you, right? We need to get the features out, and sometime later we'll fix that security thing. Sometime later never happens. Yes? It's what's wrong with the world.
Sometimes the company needs to buy a consultant to tell the manager to do the thing that the team already knows.
Yes, exactly right. Yes.
You're here and everything, but this consultant, they're paid.
Yeah, Sakari runs a consultancy company, and so he knows this story very well, right? It's the fact of life, right? That you hire a consultant to tell the company to do the thing that the engineers already know they need to do. And that's the sad truth of it. It doesn't happen automatically. That's the thing, right? I've been hammering that many times in this presentation. Let's do it one more time. If it is not someone's job to fix it, it's not going to be automatically fixed. But the business end of your company thinks it will be fixed, because engineers are doing techie things, and of course they'll fix security. Sure, not without a plan. Yes.
I think it feeds into the accountability, so it is also in the you build it, you run it, you get the accountability on it, and that is when the fixes start to flow in.
Yes, two wonderful points. Thank you for those, and maybe those will be the closing notes. Probably, yeah. Wonderful notes. So, yes, the accountability again. Professional, adult, responsible engineers doing techie things want to do a good job. We do. We are proud. We are good at what we do. We love to do a good job, right? And so we need to be accountable for the job that we do. If we're not made accountable, we're going to waste money, because it's not my business. It's not my problem if I leave the VM running with an open port to the internet. It's not my job to fix security. It's not my job to blah, blah, blah. I don't feel accountable, right? I don't feel like somebody requires me to do the right thing. That is so important. And the other one was, you had the other point there. You build it, you run it. I love that. So the sad part about you build it, you run it is that it doesn't scale, right? If every team needs to operate their own shit, we're going to have each team having operational people, and they're not going to be coordinated anyway. So all the teams need to be able to rely on an operation as a service. That could be in-house, but that's typically something that we see a lot, that people try to ship off to somewhere else, like Lithuania or somewhere where the headcount is cheaper, to run operations for you. So I have to honestly say, and this is maybe I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion, but I think you build it, you run it, it's kind of bullshit. That's my opinion. All right, are we done? Thank you.